Hey, what's up? Welcome to the Jungle Brothers podcast. Today, Paulie and I are chatting about Eastern versus Western philosophy as it pertains to strength. I'm going to present for you an intelligent and well-articulated discussion of these two different universes of strength training and how Jungle Brothers sits right in the fucking war zone between the two of them. Further to that, Paulie, today's episode is sponsored by Panavore, which, if you guys have listened to the show for a while, you will know that Panavore is our chosen coffee provider. They've supplied us coffee for this show for many years. They supply the coffee in the gym, and they make the greatest coffee in Sydney. Check them out. If you're down around the area, anywhere in South Sydney, Eastern Sydney, go and check out Panavore. Let's jump into the episode.
Beautiful. Big intro, brother. Big intro.
What did you think of that?
I liked it. I'm keen on this presentation, on this, points of view. But before we get into it, can we recognize the new fucking setup? Because this is my first time. I know you've been in it a few times already.
Yeah, this is big, huh?
Yeah.
We have a studio now. For those that aren't watching this is the first time we've filmed the episode proper. Remains to be seen if it is viewable on YouTube or wherever. But it's the first time we have a proper studio.
Yeah, I think it's got a different energy to it. Ultimately better, but I'm like a little bit nervous. I'm like sitting in this position, cameras on me now. Have I got anything in my teeth? But nah, it's fucking cool.
Yeah, it's a definite upgrade, right? Like for people that aren't aware of how we did it in the past, we have this big office here at the gym. And, we used to have a small office in our old gym and we would just do it there. And then we moved into a bigger gym with a big office and we just do it at a table in the corner. And I guess that worked fine because for a long time it was just you, me and T and then maybe a coach here and there. But more recently it's been an office full of coaches. And so you're kind of podcasting in the corner of the room. Coaches have to sort of tiptoe around a little bit. They're trying to heat their food up in the microwave. It's just not ideal. And so we put a wall in, we split the office and what is now the studio. We got some curtains and shit. Yeah, it's a lovely upgrade.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Who'd you have helping you with it?
So
the design.
So that was a collaboration between us, as in the gym, Jungle Botany, and Bulletproof for BJJ, which is my side hustle. And so Bulletproof, kind of the podcast there is obviously doing pretty well. Like we produce a lot and it's, got some sponsors and shit. So Bulletproof was like, well, what if we can like fund this thing and then the gym can kind of, kick back to us over the years. And so that's how we did it. So JT helped, with a little bit of painting, a little bit of curtain hanging.
You were really leading the charge. Obviously the main work was done by the member of the year from last year, Mr. Aaron Hook El Gunshaw, who came in. Gunshaw. Ricardo gave him that name. It means hook in Spanish. Gunshaw. He's got a shirt they made for him with it.
Mad.
But yeah, he did that. And then you had Clarice, of course, that helped with the design.
Yeah, big shout out to Clarice. She's a former member of the gym, friend of the pod, friend of the gym. And she's like, yeah, I can help you with the design, which... it kind of seems sort of minimal. You're like, what's there to decide? But when it actually came time to choose like paint colors and shit, and we're like, what fucking curtains do I get? Like, what color do they need to be? And a rug, like, so yeah, she was really handy to have her on board to help with that.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
So new digs, I like it, and I look forward to spending more time on the couch. It's like a bit slouchy, a bit, just working out my postures here. Then I'll have to review the footage to see what angles work well for me.
Yeah, you got to lean in. You got to kind of, there's something nice about being in a stiff chair, isn't there?
Yeah.
And I was thinking we might change that. It might become like a 2-chair kind of thing.
Yep.
Like armchair kind of vibe.
Mate, the evolution of it.
Fuck, guys, sky's the limit at this point. We've got a back wall and shit. We're going to decorate that with some stuff at some point. We've got to get, like the camera lenses are not perfect. It's, it's like... many little upgrades to be made, but this has been a huge leap.
Fuck, if you are watching this and now you're seeing the visual, give us some suggestions. I mean, send through. If you're looking at it, you're like, oh, you need this. Hey, you should put this in the background, blah, blah, blah. We want to hear it.
Yeah, fucking fire away in those YouTube comments.
Absolutely.
Don't forget to like and subscribe. Shit.
Fucking hell. I'm intrigued, Joey, about this subject today. You brought it to me. You've got some views on it, and it sounds like you've had them for some time. Probably, as it is in the training world, it's popped up through, being on the gym floor, coaching other people, thinking about the industry and the kind of evolution of, one dogma from one part of the world and another one, and then it coming together. So I'm interested to know a bit about it today.
So let me give you like a couple of scenarios or things that have happened recently that sort of made me think about this difference a lot. So we're talking like Eastern philosophy versus Western philosophy. So, a simple and non-academic explanation, and I say non-academic because, I just Google this shit, right? But Western philosophy is the prevailing sort of philosophy in our culture, right? It is science-driven. Which is driven by large organizations, universities, colleges, where specialists study these things, scientists, and they come to conclusions and then they issue papers, and this is what we know right now. And science is constantly in this, process of being proven, disproven, new theories. This one was right, this one was wrong, right? It's just this rolling thing. Eastern philosophy is, as I know it, is like think of Chinese medicine, think of like Ayurvedic medicine, right? Think about meditation, think about spirituality, things that are more anecdotal. There's not these large, there probably is now in the West, but there is traditionally not been large bodies of academia studying Eastern philosophy, right? You think about what the kung fu master teaches the student, right? That is some Eastern shit. Like, don't look at the finger, right? It's like, like it's mystical. You can't quite grasp it. Can you prove it, right? Anecdotal meaning it's just through people's experiences and observations and feelings around this thing.
Yep.
Whereas, the West is science driven. So it's very much like, no, it's not a thing unless it's proven in a test.
Unless it's
a study
on paper and it's reviewed and it's repeatable.
Exactly.
I know what you're saying kind of intuitively because I started doing Kung Fu when I was young and I grew up on the same fucking Bruce Lee breakfast cereal as you did. And that kind of mystical East trope is what I grew up on, and to some degree I still kind of live and breathe by that as well. Like, we were just kind of watching some shit. It was actually just Kill Bill yesterday, and talking about I'm building a new fucking strength program for people to come and join the gym around this idea of killing Bill, and the Bill is the old you.
Oh, sick.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. But, just going into the trailer and looking at it, and Tarantino, it's all the Pai Mei, it's the journey, and it's like a very spiritually, emotionally driven thing that is kind of greater than just you alone. It's like all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I get what you're saying just generally about the philosophy differences. But you're talking about that as pertaining to like strength training, and then those philosophies as applied to developing like a human in strength or whatever it is in the gym.
Yeah, exactly. And I think really what I want to get to the heart of it with this conversation is where the information out there can be a bit misleading for people. And so I want listeners, viewers to maybe try and come away with like a bit of a better understanding of how to filter such information.
Yep.
So let me give you a couple of stories, right? So I'm in the jiu-jitsu world, obviously. There's a famous strength coach, which you probably know, Mike Israetel, right, of Renaissance periodization. So if you've ever looked at strength stuff on YouTube, he pops up all the time. It's like, what is he? Is it exercise scientist critiques Chris Hemsworth training program. You know, like he's always and he is this small, steroided up, jacked, like fucking hugely
Is he
muscular.
the bald guy?
Bald guy, yeah.
What's his name again?
Mike Israetel.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
very
like his little clips.
Yeah. Some of his clips are great. Like
Yeah.
he's got really good content, and he's a smart guy.
Yep.
Absolutely. And you know, Mike Israetel, he did a clip or in an interview where he was talking about the Turkish get-up, and he's like, Turkish get-up's like nothing more than just a circus trick. Like it doesn't make you stronger. He's like, I tell you what makes you stronger: bench press, deadlift, squats. That's what makes you stronger, right?
So I don't know him to that degree.
And so, you know, and so us being like JT and I being like somewhat commentators on the strength realm for jiu-jitsu, were like, we don't agree with that, you know? And so I thought a lot about like, why don't I agree with it? And there's a particular gym that I really admire that is a strength and conditioning gym predominantly for jiu-jitsu athletes. And they have a lot of elite competitors who train there. And they posted that clip and they're like, fuck yeah, this is what it's all about. It's all bench press, squats, you know, like.
Oh, no.
And but that's not wrong, right? Like it's like, yeah, like bench press, squats, like basic barbell strength work makes you strong. The science shows that if you want to get strong, do that stuff, you will get stronger.
It's not
right?
wrong, but it's partially right.
Yes. And and this is where the dilemma is for me. It is making something that is gray and nuanced, it's making it binary. And so it's saying this works, this doesn't. And my view is that that's what the science in strength does. It makes things binary. They're either optimal or they are nowhere to be seen, right? And in that way, and I think that I was thinking about how would you define like Western philosophy? It is reductionist by nature. Because it is like, all right, we take all this shit. Like, here's an example. Turmeric. Bunch of fucking ancient cultures use turmeric. Your family, right, would use turmeric. And we know that it has beneficial effects on the health. It's good for managing blood pressure and whatever the fuck, right? Skin.
Joint pain.
Exactly. Yeah, inflammation, right?
And
So it's
inflammation
like,
control,
turmeric's great. This food, it grows in the ground. A lot of these fucking ancient cultures have been like drying it and grinding it up and adding it to curries and whatnot for, you know, millennia. And then the West goes, well, what is it in the turmeric? We need to know. And so they study it and they're like, it's the curcumin. It's the curcumin in the turmeric. So we release curcumin supplements, right? And then it's like, we got curcumin supplements. People are taking like joint pain formulas, curcumin. But the curcumin doesn't actually work unless it's in the presence of certain other compounds. So they suggest that if you take curcumin, you should have it with black pepper, right? Now, black pepper is usually in curry, right? So in a way, it's like the shit already worked the way the guys were doing it.
Yeah.
But because we felt the need to reduce it down to the one provable thing, we end up with this isolated product on the shelves that, you know, works or doesn't. But it's like prior to the study showing that curcumin was the active anti-inflammatory compound in turmeric, our viewpoint was, well, it doesn't work because it hasn't been proven yet. So what I'm getting at is like there's some kind of absurdity to this reductionist nature, right? Where we have to get to the heart of every single thing to go, no, scrape away that. Okay, that's the thing there. Because if I look at this in the gym environment, this is people training in Fitness First, people training at Anytime Fitness type gyms. Like, okay, kettlebells, Turkish get-ups, they're not addressing any one specific thing. If I reduce that down, what am I getting from it? That's no good. So let's opt for leg extension, leg press. Let's opt for chest fly, like pec deck machine. Let's opt for seated row machine. Because we know in a truly reductionist way that that machine targets that specific outcome. So I'm like, well, if you follow this reductionist path, we all end up looking like bodybuilders.
Fuck's sake.
And as we know, right, like, you know, bodybuilders, well, they look great on stage. Like, it's fun to look at, Marvel, whatever. Great. That's, you know, personal opinion. But we know that that doesn't build the body that moves the best, the body that feels the best to live in. You know, actually, it's not actually the best looking body, right?
How do you know, bro? Have you been fucking 350 pounds, brother?
I fucking tried. I couldn't get there, so now I talk shit about it.
Nah, man. Yeah, no, it shits me, you know, and I think probably the most of our audience understand where you're coming from with it. And it is absurd is the word that you use with it. I think a couple of things that play into like that reductionist view being now kind of being put out there to the masses is like obviously the algorithm and stuff. Because I think in the science, like when they're setting up a study and stuff, they have to be a bit reductionist because they have to be specific about what they're measuring, and that's what's hard about doing something that's hard to measure. People don't want to do fucking, randomized controlled trials on something that has too many variables because then when I make my paper, like, what am I saying? It's too washy. But like at the end of most of those papers, they also like usually they should be acknowledging that there's a lot of variety and more study needs to be done. But when you come to like say the mic, like they're just going to pluck out the one thing because the algorithm kind of wants them to be a bit more black and white about it as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I like to think that if you had a conversation with him on the couch, he'd be more open to saying, oh, no, look, obviously, fucking Turkish get-ups, like being stronger with your arm behind your back is going to be a certain specific type of coordination of strength that's relevant to what you're doing there. But that fucking algorithm is just like, it's not helping, I think, people's thought process around, how they experience their own training or whatever that might be.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, to your first point, I don't think there's, like, I think that the role of science, right, and academia is to, like, go hyper-specific on those things.
Yeah.
But it's the role, then the job is, like, on our interpretation of that. Yeah. To be like, oh, well, that's what that thing showed. Okay, let's take that with a grain of salt because there's these other considerations and let's form a well-rounded view.
Yeah.
Versus like, no, that's what the paper says. That's all that matters. That's the shit.
So that's Mike doing that, would you say?
Well, okay, so I don't know if you've encountered this, say, as a coach, like on social media, but there's a huge sort of label that a lot of coaches use, which is science-backed or science-driven.
It keeps coming back to me lately.
Yeah, and that's what the strength and conditioning world is built upon.
Yeah.
It's built upon the science. And in a way, you can understand that because the strength and conditioning world was, I guess, formed predominantly to train elite athletes. Mm-hmm. So in that way, you are looking for, like, you're trying to build the pinnacle of athletic performance with an asset, i.e. an athlete, that only has a limited lifetime. Mm-hmm. And they're very expensive, right? It's a very valuable asset.
Yeah.
So there's no room for fucking around.
Yeah.
Like, I need you to make this dude run as fast as possible because we're going to get about 24 months out of him.
Plus all the sponsorship and all the money that's involved. So when you're hiring someone, they better be like using a proven formula and hitting their KPIs for, development.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. That's not helping at all.
Well, I don't think it like, so it's so.
Well, oh no, I was just going to say, when I say it's not helping at all, I don't mean generally, like that shit does work. I mean, what it's not helping, I guess, is more towards, say, the other side of the spectrum, which you're talking about towards the west, towards the east rather, which for me, just the two viewpoints are more like, I feel like the reductionist scientist-based training way is making us less, it means more external training. So the training is happening to your body, it's more external, and you're listening to all those data points and following that program, as opposed to something that's more internal and felt and experienced, where you actually trust yourself more and say, no, that doesn't feel right for me. This feels better when I do this. And being like honest and confident in your own self. Because that's what I hear, like where you're coming to with a bit of it as well.
That's an excellent point because, yeah, like we know, right? When you get someone who's been training, what you could argue is a science-backed approach, i.e. they've been doing bodybuilding training for the last decade at the local commercial gym, or maybe they've been following some kind of CrossFit style thing, and then you get them into a stretch class and they're like, fuck, man, I feel so good after that. I've never like been able to touch my toes, or I've never stretching my hip flexors felt fucking like it was excruciating. But then the third set was like, I was reborn. You know, like you have those conversations and you're like, yeah, how good is it, right? Stretching, am I right? And that is like the stretching isn't like, yeah, there's science to back stretching, but the stretching flexibility is largely an Eastern pursuit, right? Flexibility training isn't something that the science worries about in the strength and conditioning realm, because it generally doesn't equal performance. It is usually more related to health and to well-being, right? And so, yeah, it's like, and so that's experiential. You felt that felt good. You just did chest day at the gym. You don't feel like that.
No.
Right? And so I get what you mean about like, well, you're following the thing because this is how you grow the pec muscles. But there is also this side which is like, you can be enjoying the experience of this and there can be some kind of middle ground.
Yeah, something that I thought I hear a lot in the gym is the question about like, how much should I train? And it's the, I've just had a kid now, I'm not sleeping much. How much should I train? What type of training should I do? And often you say, oh man, you just got to listen to your body, right? You got to listen to your body. And they're looking for a very black and white little framework to measure themselves against that you're going to tell them. It's going to be the magic thing. They just check on that little app and boom. Okay, I'm good to train. It's the fucking whoop. It's that sort of thing.
Yep.
But like inside of that comment is, it's a world of getting to know your own body and truly listening to its markers. And then also in a bit of a scientific way, just measuring that a little bit. I feel like this morning. I went and trained to this degree. I actually felt okay. And I think the science can shut that process down a lot, because you're outsourcing the responsibility of progress to the science as opposed to taking it onto yourself.
Yeah, I'd absolutely agree. It's because because the science is results driven, and if the result is
don't lie,
bigger muscles, stronger, faster performance, then that's what we're moving towards always, which could be to the detriment of feeling better, not waking up sore, feeling more energetic, having more vitality. Feeling more coordinated and connected, right?
I can't help but think of a lot of the how good's the fucking social media for bringing up old clips of shit.
Oh yeah, it knows when you need to see one.
Which is every 5
You're just
minutes.
about to duck off, and then it's like, what about this one? You're like, I'll stick around for a few more minutes.
Now, look, I got a shocking memory for it. You're probably better at it, but like just the little fitness clips of all the fucking legends, the amazing athletes from, eras before ours in the 70s, the 80s, or even earlier, strength legends, athletic legends who had very, questionable training routines. They would do certain things that were kind of shocking and off-center, especially for when you look back at it today. You're like, oh. But then there's this loop coming around where the science is now catching up to what that person was doing. And it's like, this person was actually doing it all the time, and he was heads and shoulders above everyone else at the time. And he's actually only, he's only a second away from the current world record some 50, 40 years ago. You know what I mean?
Something that makes me think of, we were talking the other day about, was it the conversation about sprinters, the American sprinters?
Yeah.
And there's that Netflix doco sprint.
Yeah.
And, the American sprinters, particularly the women, and also some of the other athletes.
Shaqiri, Richardson.
Yeah, they love like the gold chains and the nails and the hair. And you're looking at it and you're like, surely that stuff gets in the way of you running your absolute, right?
For sure.
But obviously it empowers them and builds their confidence to a point where the benefits outweigh the negatives. And so you could say in a way that that's like an Eastern thing where it's like, well, look, scientifically, this isn't going to be the best option. But if it makes you feel fucking great, fine, wear it.
Yes.
Yeah. And so I think there's a lot of instances of that. And I think of a coach that I worked with years ago, Alan Romero, who you may have met.
Oh, yeah.
Runs a gym down at Romero Strength.
Big fella.
Romero Athletics down in Canberra. But he was saying he went and did powerlifting competitively in Russia for a period of time. And he trained with this team, and they were really serious powerlifters. And they had a big comp coming up. And the night before the comp, they all went out and got drunk on vodka.
There you go.
And it's this idea of like, we've done all of the hard work. We're not getting any stronger the night before. Now it's about relaxing so that we can come into the competition feeling good.
Yep.
And you're like, fuck, that flies in the face of everything we know about, like, you know, what being well recovered and rested and all that stuff. So, you know, I think it would only be fair saying this discussion to also like just mention the drawbacks of the Eastern approach, right? Because if I'm saying that if you just follow the Western dogma, you do barbell strength training, you do machines to target a specific joint, and that's all you do, that is not going to equal the most robust, well-rounded physical specimen you could be. What are the drawbacks of just doing the complete opposite? Now, we see that in the gym. We see in those big commercials, you see people who just fuck around. You could argue that maybe they're doing some intuitive training. Functional fitness was, in a way, maybe some kind of effort to do more of that. Everything rotational, unilateral, multiple planes of motion, right? To the point where the exercise is so fluffy, there's no specific result from it. It's like, great, you've been doing like wood choppers on the cable machine for 12 months. What has that done for you? I don't know, but my wood choppers have gone up, right? Whereas you take the person that has deadlifted for 12 months, like, I'm heaps fucking stronger and I got way bigger muscles through my posterior chain. So, you know, sitting in the woods and meditating 24/7, I don't know, that's not going to build it for you, right? Like, we do need to follow things that are science driven. We have to embrace that as well.
Yeah, I think we can recognize that we live in the West. So we have societal demands of the West. And I think the Western approach comes with the capitalism, the industrialism. We got to go to work, baby. We got to pay this shit off. These kids fucking live in Sydney and shit. So, you know, we do want to be measuring our progress. We can't meditate in the woods or have a 3-hour training session where we warm up with our intuition and follow, you know, where the tension is in our body. We kind of need to get to it. We got to do what we know works in the middle and head off to work with a little bit of play maybe. And I guess, you know, that's kind of where we lie in, where we're trying to balance, you know, these jungle philosophies while putting it into a realistic modern setting. And that is the general public here who does work, who are parents and whatnot. So, yeah, I guess a drawback is that, well, you can't meditate in the forest the whole time. You know, we actually got to make some progress. So measurement and doing, you know, mainly the middle stuff in the bell curve is what most general people need, given the time that they have.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And that is exactly how I view it, is like, do mostly stuff that is proven to be super effective.
Yep.
And then do some other stuff that has been proven in different circles to be very effective.
Yep.
You know, we use some of those terms in our method, right? Exposure, you know, work with this for a while. You need more exposure to grasp this, you know, like someone's struggling with something. Yeah, just keep doing it.
Yep.
You know, that's kind of an Eastern response, right? That's the old Kung Fu master that's just like, come back and do this every day for 2 years and then you can ask me questions. Kind of thing, you know?
Yep.
Play, right? Play, warm up piece. Yeah, great. Does a bunch of shit. What's it do? I don't know. Gets your fucking fire, like gets your body lit up. We don't need to go into it too much.
Yes.
Let's do the deadlifts now.
Yep.
Like, and I think that combination of things is what's important and is what is most effective for building the well-rounded, well-balanced, robust specimen. Exercises, it's being able to see that there is benefit to doing things that don't necessarily have a hyper clear measurable outcome. But this is challenging on many levels, i.e. it's hard for my legs, it's hard for my shoulder, the coordination's a bit tricky. Great, let's keep doing it. Let's try and get heavier on it each week. Where is that going to pay dividends? Somewhere. Do we need to know exactly where? Not really. We're here to get stronger and we know that this is getting you stronger, so let's keep going.
Yep.
So I really think that balance between the two is what's important. And I guess it's, you know, for people looking at it in the training environment, it's sort of understanding that sometimes it's necessary to clearly define what's the outcome of this drill. And then sometimes it's necessary to just let that go and do the drill.
Absolutely. I love that you brought this topic up. It's been a really interesting conversation. I think that where am I right now? Yeah, I think I'm pretty much applying the formula. In a few ways I won't really go into it, but more about just like how I'm balancing my training with life and kids and stuff like that. So yeah, I have to stick to meat and potatoes for the most part because I've got limited time, but I'm also choosing to do shit that gives me joy and it's playful. And, you know, I've been playing football a bit and now I'm doing some striking again. And yeah, somewhere in there, I think there's a balance between, hard measurable stuff, that I know that is really going to pay dividends, and then the other stuff, you know, and it keeps me joyous, and that's a good kind of measuring stick,
brother,
to go by.
That's a great result.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thanks for the chat.
Thanks, brother.
Cheers, guys. See you on the next one.